Hello and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 161. I'm your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is
James Seelig.
we are back after taking a week off. It always feels like when we do these kinds of things where there's maybe we're recording like a couple episodes in 1 week because we'll be gone for a week or something, or we just take a week off. It feels like we've been gone for like a month or something. It just feels like a
Yeah.
long span of time because it's been like really, because we record on the weekends, so then we release and then record the next weekend and whatnot. Since it's been really like 2 weekends, it feels closer to that of 2 weeks, which is probably why it feels like that, I
Yeah.
think, at this point.
I also wish we skipped an episode because of like something fun, like I don't know, one of us went on vacation or something, but it was just my internet went out.
It worked out for me, honestly, because I was
Yeah.
that whole week was yeah, no, I was out Sunday. I was like out all day for my buddy's birthday. I was also like picking people up from the airport, and I
Mm.
don't remember what I was doing on Saturday. I just remember everything being like nonstop, so I was exhausted. It worked out. I try to get co-hosts potentially, which everyone else I would have normally picked were all out of town straight up, and I was just like the one person that might have been able to. I'm like, hey, this is the span of time we could do it. Does that work? I'm on acid. Oh, never mind. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn,
So
that's an answer I
yeah,
wasn't
they're like, how about
expecting.
tomorrow? And I'm like, nope, not tomorrow. That's not gonna work. So
I'll
yeah,
be indisposed for about 12 hours.
yeah, more or less. I won't say who it was, but it's yeah, it's funny. Uh,
Someone cool.
someone really cool. Yeah, no, God, but yeah, we're here this week and we're making up for what we never got to do before in our Thor episode that
Mm.
was originally supposed to be part of it was talking about Miss Marvel. So we got that going on, and then if we have time, because I don't think this will be not like one of our longer hour and a half to 2 hour episodes. I don't think
Yeah,
we'll see.
we got a deadline. We gotta go see Gamera too.
Yeah, we'll explain that in a second too. But if we have
Uh,
time, we'll talk about the movie Nope, which we saw as well, and that was a really good time. There's plenty of other things to talk about. I still got like a backlog of shit I've got like full notes on, but I think that'll be next week just because I think this
yeah.
is like the last big thing before we get to like easier
I
shit.
guess real quick about Nope though, I do appreciate that it is somehow at the same time what you think it is and it's not what you think.
Yeah, they do. Well, yeah,
It
we'll
sounds
get to
weird,
all of
but
it.
like it'll make sense if we get to it this episode or most likely next episode at the latest.
Yeah. Uh, but we are right. Like this weekend is Godzilla Fest, which here in San Francisco we have a local theater called the Balboa Theater, which is really awesome. And they've done this multiple years now. I don't even know if this is like my fourth one now I've been to at this point, or fifth
That's a
maybe.
good question.
I don't even know, but I've been going like all. I think I
I
skipped
want to say
like
we've definitely gone at least 3 times.
yeah. The only one I feel like I didn't go to was the King Kong centric one, which was like
Mm,
the previous one, and then this one is Gamera themed because usually it's just Godzilla, but they've been bringing in like last time was Kong, this time's Gamera. I think next time is gonna be Ultraman, which I've never seen any of those movies, so
ooh.
I want to kind of
Yeah, I think
check those out first so I know if it's worth my
the
money or
title for
not.
this weekend was Gamera Crashes Godzilla Fest all weekend.
Yeah, last time it was Godzilla King Kong. It was called King Kong Crashes Godzilla
Mm,
Fest, I believe.
okay.
But yeah, it's cool. It's a good time. We saw one last night. We just saw one today, and we're gonna see another one later today, which is like in between right now. We ran back and we're like, all right, let's record, and then we'll run back out there and continue the movie or watch the next one. And then tomorrow, the reason we're recording today on a Saturday is because Sunday, when we normally record, we're watching three movies. So
Yeah.
it's like we got weekend passes, so it's a cool thing. And in fact, during
A
this
nice,
past movie,
relaxing, busy weekend.
exactly. Actually, yeah, it really does.
uh,
Yeah. But there was like trivia, and it's really funny because like, I got NECA Godzilla figures. I got the fucking massive Mondo Godzilla statue here. I don't have anything Gamera really. I got like the movie collection I got from like the Arrow video one, but that was just recent. And there was like a trivia question about one of the movies, and ironically enough, it was a movie I saw like 2 weeks ago. And so they're like, "Oh, what's the childhood name of what's Gamera's name that the kid gives him in this movie?" And like I raised my hand, and he's like, "You back there." And the two guys in front of me think it's them.
yeah.
And they're like, "It's Toto! It's Toto!"
I
And
can
I'm
understand
like,
the guy that was like kind of in front of you, but the guy who was like off to the side, just straight up immediately was like, answer.
they were like screaming it too. And
Yeah.
the guy just looks at them, looks at me, and goes, "Sorry, I didn't hear what you said." And I'm like,
Yeah.
it was Toto." Like, yeah. And he just walks over, gives me the prize, which was a Gamera figure right here.
Pretty high
And
detail to
yeah,
one too. It's pretty cool.
pretty cool. And these Japanese figures are usually very light. They're very like they feel kind of hollow inside, so they always feel kind of flimsy compared to like you hold a mono figure and those things are fucking heavy and shit.
Yeah.
This thing isn't cheap though. This was like a $35 and a little green price tag there. $35.
They say it's $35.
Yeah, I think it's imported. So if you get it, yeah,
Nah, that's fair. Yeah.
if you
Imported
get
stuff
it
is
in
usually expensive.
Japan, it's probably
More
like 12
expensive.
bucks or something.
Yeah. I could
Um,
see that.
yeah, so I got that, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got a Gamera figure now. I would not have spent my money on it, but now I got one for free. So cool, dog. All right.
Now you gotta
Uh,
get an Ultraman figure to balance it out.
I still have to watch my first. I need to watch all the fucking Ultraman shit before Shin Ultraman releases internationally. I got to check it out. So now that I'm an
I keep
expanding
forgetting
world.
that season 2 of the more recent Ultraman anime
Oh,
is on
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't watched
Yeah.
that
I
either.
like the
Well, I
first
was gonna
season.
wait. Yeah. I always like to in like all these giant monster franchises, I like to watch in like order of release. So that way I can
Interesting.
appreciate the
Okay.
newer stuff as it comes and I'll be like, wow, I really like this because I watched the first one and it made me want to kill myself a little bit with like Chimera. But anyway,
Yeah,
we're
I
not here
feel
for
kind of
monsters.
lucky. It sounds from what you've told me, it sounds like I'm only seeing the good Gamera movies this
Yes,
weekend.
I straight up was like, oh, these are the 90s ones. We'll just do this. If we do the 60s ones, like actually, you guys were probably here if it was the Top Gun episode. If you guys check that one out, I think Miles and I briefly talked about Gamera. I want to say, I think I don't remember now actually if we did or not, but we talked about like the Showa era, and we were just like, "Fuck."
Nah.
But yeah. Anyway, we're here for Miss Marvel and maybe Nope. No news this week really, besides like last week was that Batgirl movie cancellation, big whoop. No, I'm just kidding. That's a big deal. Uh,
Yeah. People are
it's
just in fear of all DC movies right now.
Yeah, and I do want to go into full detail about it, just not here. It is going to
Yeah.
be part of the Cut of Steel, whatever happened to the DCEU special that I'm working on, and like I said, that's going to come in due time. And we'll talk more about it at the end of the episode. But
Yeah. If we could get Danny and the Brandons on at the same time to talk about like all the cancellations and stuff, that'd be I think a really interesting episode.
we're definitely not going to have everyone on at the same time. That would be awful. It's too many
Okay.
people. I
That's fair,
it was
yeah.
bad enough having all five of them on for like the Snyder stuff because that was just like nonstop rambling. And I love them all, but five people at once on that kind of thing does not. It's just
Yeah.
chaotic, way too
That's
chaotic.
fair.
Yeah, no. The plan for that special because it's going to be anywhere from like 1 to 3 episodes is I just want one maybe two people with me talking about each one. And the way I see it is I could switch it up between people for each different part, depending on how it goes, where we leave off and jump on to the next thing. But we'll get to that when we get to that, one piece at a time. Right now, I'm still in TikTok mode, which is a whole another story. Once again, at the end of the episode, I'll explain it all. With that said, let's get right into talking about Miss Marvel, which, uh, you know, it was what, 6 episodes and recently finished up on Disney Plus. It's a very Pakistani centric show with a lot of the pretty much people creating it, all the showrunners and whatnot. They're all Middle Eastern, and I think majority of them were Pakistani, which was
Hmm,
actually highly
that's
appreciated
cool.
for it. And this is one of the 2 shows on Disney Plus I think I was looking forward to the most. It was this and Moon Knight, and Moon Knight, didn't really hit like I wanted it to. Like straight
Yeah.
up, I already forgot that. I forgot it. Like if you ask me what happened, I'd be like, I think he fights what's his face once, and the gods. There's like a hippo that talks.
I think at the end
That's it.
when we talked about it on the show, I think we both were just like it was okay. It was fun, but like forgettable.
Yeah, it. I think it's extra disappointing because it's Moon Knight. It's like a
Yeah.
character I've been looking forward to a lot, and they just kind of like he just was there and gone. And instead, we just kept having a guy that didn't know who the fuck he was, and I'm like, I'm kind of getting bored now, but okay. Uh, Now with Miss Marvel, I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, I think this is my favorite Disney Plus show so far.
Really?
Or Miss Marvel, like Marvel, because her name's Miss Marvel, and then there's Marvel, and it's confusing. But this is probably the best Marvel show to me so far, or at least the one I've enjoyed the most. I will also say I have a bit of a bias because I am Middle Eastern, and I'm like, oh shit, Middle Eastern show, and it's not fucking Legends of Tomorrow with two Iranian people that are barely there, and one just smokes weed a lot, and that's it. And they don't actually use their powers. So I'm actually very much happy about this one, and enjoying myself with this character. And the comic she's based on is, I've said it before, one of the best comics Marvel has probably put out in the last 10 years. And it's the one I would recommend anyone to read out of any Marvel comic, easily. It's just like 2 volumes or something for the very first run
Yeah,
on
I've
the
been
character.
tempted recently to get a Marvel Unlimited subscription just to like get back into reading comics and read the stuff that I missed, like for Venom and stuff. And if I ever do that, then I'd probably throw Miss Marvel on that list too, because I've only heard good things about like
Oh, for
the
sure. And if you're getting
like
Marvel
any of her
Unlimited, you may as
comics.
well get your money's worth too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like, yeah. So talking about this character in this show, Kamala, I think she was really well done. She very much feels like a kid. Like, this is the whole thing, is she's a high school girl doing high school shit, and now she has superpowers and she doesn't know where they're coming from. It's different than it is in the comic. We'll get to that. But at first, I just want to talk about her herself and her personality.
I think the
And
actress was perfectly cast because if you ever watch any of her like red carpet like interviews with IGN and stuff, she is a literal fangirl of Marvel and stuff. And that is exactly Miss Marvel in the comics too, from what I've heard. She's like a huge Avengers fan.
yeah, Iman Vanali, I believe that's her name. The kid is great. Like, in all her interviews, she sounds like she knows her shit. And majority of the actors are like, yeah, I played this character. He was in a comic book,
Yeah.
and I learned some quips for this movie. And I'm like, that's fuck. God damn it, Mark Ruffalo. But like, for her, she's like, I've read this stuff. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
And she goes into a very, very slim amount of people that I have like this extra respect for actually knowing like the material beforehand, or like knowing all of these characters, which she ironically enough, I'm like, so who are the three? Well, you see, it's Batman, Miss Marvel, and Superman are like the main ones, and it's like Ben Affleck is actually a really big comic book fan, I'm pretty sure. Uh,
Yeah. I feel
Henry
so bad for
Cavill,
him
Henry
being
Cavill is like the
such a huge
king.
fan
Yeah, I know. And Henry
and just
Cavill's like
having a bad time.
yeah, and Henry Cavill's the king of that shit. And then you have now Iman Benali, and it's just like, god damn, like she even, I love that she argues with Kevin Feige about like what the universe is, and Kevin Feige doesn't know what the
Yeah.
fuck he's talking about too.
She literally sounds so excited to be working on a Marvel show.
Oh yeah, it's funny because he calls the MC like the 616, even though it's not like.
And she's like, it's not.
And everyone knows it's not, because it's like, well, the
Yeah.
Marvel comics is 616. That doesn't
Yeah.
make any fucking sense. It's like saying, yeah, there's Earth 1 in DC, and then there's Earth 1 in DC.
Yes.
Then
That's
I
of course
then
how it
I
works.
chuck rock at your head, idiot. But yeah, no, she knows her shit, and she plays that character pretty much as I'd want it to be, because the comic itself is very, it's a funny comic. Like, it's very humorous. They make faces in it and all this shit. And a lot of the, in any type of medium, whether it's animated or drawn, you could be a little bit more, I guess, what would the name be for it? To make it more not emotional, but more you could be much more
Embellished, I guess.
embellished, unrealistic, of like their
Yeah.
facial expressions and reactions and stuff, where it does look cartoony, and obviously you can't really do that live action.
Exaggerated, I
Yes,
think. Yeah.
that's the word for it. Damn, I blank on that. But she does as good as you can get with, since it's unless you're visual effects doing shit on it, she can't really over exaggerate her expressions or
Yeah.
do it without looking cringy or something. So she does pretty much everything really well, and she reminds you she's a high school kid. She's not some adult character like the others. Not even like Kate Bishop, who's in like college and pretty much finishing college, it seemed like,
Yeah.
or Yelena, who's probably in her like 20s as an assassin and stuff. So like all these characters are like older. She's at this point, I want to say, like the youngest. Uh, besides,
How old is Peter supposed to be?
he's
He
like
just went to
18.
college.
Yeah, he just went to
Yeah.
college, so he's like 18.
Okay.
Oh, America Chavez is like the only one that might be younger than her, maybe,
Maybe.
I think. Because she's like what, 15 or something? I don't know.
I don't remember if they actually
But she's
explicitly
also a high
said.
schooler. But yeah. Kamala just has great nerd feeling. She has great humor
Well, like the
and
first arc is her sneaking out
to a
like
convention.
to an Avengers convention dressed
Yeah.
as Ms. Marvel
Or as Captain
or
Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah. And she tried her best for and it was a cool outfit. That's the best part. Like
For
she
like a
worked hard
first
on it.
try, that was like a pretty good
I
cosplay
mean, it's
for
better than
sure.
me. Like I usually just buy my shit. I can't make
Because
shit.
she even had like a glowing like mohawk. Like that would be hard to do.
Exactly. But they got her down really well. They got her parents down well. And the only thing they were missing was more of like the thing that they do. They're like, ah, like that's a very Middle Eastern thing. They're like, ah.
I loved her parents. Her dad is so
Yeah.
funny.
Her dad was great. They do look a little bit different than they are in
I
the
love Bruno.
comics.
Like, he like created a whole universal remote and stuff just so his dad, like her dad, didn't have to like do anything.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, thank you, Bruno. But
Yeah.
the whole thing too is like her dad in the comic is a little bit bigger, and he looks a lot more serious compared to
Mm.
this one. This is a much more playful version of her father, which still worked out really well.
In the
And
comics, does her family know about her?
eventually,
Okay,
her mom figures it out and doesn't tell her for a while that she knows. Like she just goes
interesting.
like, "Oh, I knew," and you're like, "The fuck?" When you're reading it, um, I can't remember if her dad and brother know.
Yeah, because I was really
Um,
surprised that in this show, like literally within the first season, like everyone knows.
yeah,
And they're
uh,
supportive too. They're like, it's so cool, my daughter's a superhero.
yeah. No, it's very they just kind of throw away the secret identity for the most part. Besides,
Uh,
like if you're not in the inner circle and whatnot.
I love her brother's like, yeah, I overheard his dad was on speakerphone.
Oh,
uh,
she like told him immediately. That
yeah.
was fucking. She was like all getting ready to tell them, and they're like, "Well, we knew already. It's too late." But her brother was done well. The whole thing with her brother is he is like a guy who feels like a religious bum, where he's always like ultra religious, and then like it's like, well, what do you do? He's like, I worship, and it's like you don't
Yeah.
do shit. And they always make fun of him for it in the comic and shit. The sister-in-law is pretty much exactly as she is in the comic as well. I think they show her brother. She has a little brother that Kamala actually goes to high school with, I believe, and they become
Huh.
friends at a certain point too. He
Did
kind
she
of
have a little brother in this show? Is
that's
that?
what I couldn't remember. That's what I was
Yeah, I don't
saying. Like
remember.
you would notice if it's at the wedding. I don't remember if they show
Yeah.
him at the wedding though. I can't recall. He could be a part of season 2 maybe if they do continue it, which they should, but because they barely did anything for
I,
it as it is currently.
I do love that, like, for half this show, people were like, it's nightlight.
Yeah, it's
uh,
fucking. Hey, he broke my leg. She
uh,
broke my leg. And it's like
like,
you
was that on
fucking.
purpose? Shut up.
So fucking funny. Uh, yeah, and you get the full sense of like community with everything, with the mosque and all the people there. It's very like peaceful and shit. And obviously, like the tones of it are very
Yeah.
anti like just not white, but anti-racial, anti-racist, I guess you could say.
Well, it's like it was very clear that like the Department of Control kept specifically going to the mosque to fuck with them because they felt like they could intimidate them into like just giving them what they wanted.
Yeah,
I did love
specifically the
her.
Karen character.
Yeah, her friend who was like running for like mosque chair,
I think it's
the chair
Nadia.
seat or something like
Let me
that.
double check her
I
name.
forget what she was running for exactly, but like I did love she just straight up stood up
Nakia.
to
Shit.
she just straight up stood up to the DoD people and was like, "Yeah, you do not have the right to be here. Just get the fuck out."
My boyfriend's in there. He's just like, I'm your boyfriend.
Oh
That
yeah.
is fucking good. Yeah, no, and the whole thing too is the imam there, the man in charge of the mosque, Kamala does go to him for advice like all the time in the comics too. Like he's one of her advisors, more or less. I don't think she ever goes there
Hmm.
as Miss Marvel. I can't recall. But yeah.
Kind of like how Matt the Daredevil goes to his priest.
Yes, but Matt's just like, yo, fuck Faith, and you're my mom. What the
Eh,
fuck is this shit? Like that one's a little bit different, I think. This one's a little bit more heartfelt, whereas the other one's got a lot of hate imbued within it. Um, but the plot for the show, I think, is where it fell on fell on its side a little bit, where you have kind of multiple plots going through. You have Kamala. She is coming of age. She's the whole thing is like, I'm going through changes, but it's like, oh fuck, I have powers and like
Yeah,
everything with the bracelet.
I can make
She's
hard light constructs.
she's finding out about herself and learning about her family, her past, her people, whether it's going to Pakistan and like learning about everything there, from just like, oh, this is where most, this is where your people come from, and just like understanding it more, especially when her cousins are showing her around and whatnot. There is also the whole form of her figuring out what she is, because she's like part jinn, even though it's kind of like,
Yeah, that was interesting. I wasn't expecting
it
that.
was interesting. It was also kind of like the most generic thing you could possibly think of at the same time too.
I guess as far
Um,
as like Middle Eastern culture that
yeah,
everyone
everyone
would have heard
thinks,
of.
what's the Middle Eastern thing? Oh, the genie, the jinn. And it's like, yeah, let's
Nah.
do that one. It's like, fuck, dude, why is it always genies? Like,
They also
fuck.
called them like the clandestines, which
Yeah.
I had never heard of before.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing is none of that's in the comics at all.
That'd be
None of
why.
this is in the comics. Like, I'll get to that after, but just the plot itself, without reflecting on its source material, uh they have that going on with her learning about the clandestines, and pretty much these people, these jinn from another fucking universe, are like, we want to get back through any means necessary. And then at the same time, you have damage control hunting her down, going, oh, we have an unregistered meta that we have to take care of, and if it's a kid, it's an unregistered child meta, we're not going to let this slide. We have to deal with this and
Yeah,
figure out
she
what the
could
hell
be
they're doing.
potentially dangerous.
Yeah. And you have all these different subplots going on, not to mention like the personal subplots. There's the subplot with her mom, the subplot with Bruno, the subplot with Kamran. God, it's so fucking weird to say.
The first time
Uh
I heard like the character's name was Kamran, I was like, "Oh my god, they actually got it right." What?
yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So you have her main coming of age, which more or less I think is good. I think they do a good job with that in the short amount of time they have to kind of hit it. Uh
I think
you
this show definitely could have used another episode or two,
yeah,
and it would have been fine.
well, the thing is with these, someone was pointing out now, a lot of these things are going on are usually, hey, this person in this costume that does all this shit. You want to watch a show about them? Yeah. Well, guess what? What? Oh, they don't get the suit. You see them at the very last episode for 20 minutes, and you're like, the fuck is this shit? Why do they all do this? It's become a very big trope. Like, I think it's easy to say that it is now at this point a Marvel trope. At this point, they do it with almost every single thing practically now. If it's a new hero or new character, or even fucking Daredevil does it now. Like he
Dude,
at the
even
very end.
oh, I see what you mean. The just like they're not complete until the end of the season, at least the
Yeah.
first season.
And it's like I get it, but at the same time, everyone's doing it. If everyone's doing it, it feels less important now, because it's just, here's this here's green flavor. Now we're doing blue flavor. And then after that, you're gonna get yellow flavor in like 2 months. And you're like, okay, I can't wait for yellow flavor though. I'm a big fan of
Daredevil
yellow.
yellow.
Yeah.
Woo!
So you have that going on. The clandestine, the whole backstory of where the Jinn come from and all those people, and they're like weird because they're just like, 1 minute, hey, you can help us and we can help you. 20 minutes later, we're crashing the wedding. We're gonna fucking kill everybody. You better help
Yeah,
us right now. And it's like right there, that was the first crack and you see in the plot, and you're just like, oh fuck, this show is already gonna be like short attention span to the
yeah.
max.
I
Like,
think I think the reason why that bothered me was that like they spent decades waiting for an opportunity to find a way home. And I get that they were lying to Kamala the whole time that like they're just going to use her if they need to get home,
yeah,
but almost within hours were like, it's been too long, we've given her too much time to make a decision, we need to go act now. And I just thought that was a little bit rushed.
yeah, no, it was very rushed. And you pretty much, it gets wrapped up what in the fifth episode very quickly. Like it's not
Yeah,
even, it's just done. So really you don't see her until what, episode 2 is when that happens, because the whole convention stuff happens in the first episode. So that means
yeah.
2, 3, 4, and 5. There's like 4 episodes where they get introduced, they crash, you get to Pakistan, and then it wraps up, and then that's it. And you're like,
And they even have that one whole episode that's like a flashback to the partition, which was cool. And it made me interested to like actually learn more about that history, because I do not remember our history classes talking about
they
that
didn't.
much.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of history we didn't cover, but also
Yeah,
there's not
the whole
enough
time
time
I was
in
watching
there's
the
not enough time in
show.
an entire year that they go, because you know they just go like, oh, 1 year of your high school is going to be world history, and then
Yeah,
1 year is American history, and then that's it, and then you got to go learn economics or some shit.
yeah. It just feels like that was a very important piece of history for that part of the world, and it's just I've never heard of it before.
Yep. So we briefly get that, and it's wrapped up. I think that was probably the weakest part of the show, was the entire, I guess, more or less the Jin storyline.
Yeah,
It felt very not shoehorned. It felt natural at first. It just felt incredibly rushed.
yeah, especially the end where it's just like, okay, we got the portal open, cool, and then Kamala was like, no, but think about your son, and she's like, you're right. And I was very confused how she sacrificed herself to close the portal and give her power that she didn't seem to have like normally to Kamran, and now he's got the same powers as Kamala,
Similar type, yeah.
but he doesn't need like a bangle to unlock it. So I don't know.
It's a
It,
well,
it
the whole
just
thing is the Bengal doesn't actually. Kamala has the powers without the Bengal. It
yeah,
just kind of
they
was the ignite. It ignited the power, if anything.
yeah. So it definitely, I mean, we've said it multiple times at this point. It felt like they wrapped that last that storyline up real fast, and then the last episode was mostly just dealing with the
Damage
aftermath,
control.
and that's
Yeah,
it. And yeah, and the
it
damage
was just
control
damage
stuff.
control pretty much. Yeah, and the whole damage control storyline also, like, the whole thing is they were there at the beginning, and then they're gone, and then they're back at the end. Like they just kind
Yeah,
of appear and reappear, and
I
they
literally forgot about them for like the middle of the season.
yeah, no, it's a I definitely got what they were trying to go for, because the whole thing is like, look out, it's the angry white people. They're angry at us for being brown again. It's like, oh no.
Yeah,
And it's like, wait, hang on. We got to fight amongst ourselves first. And then at the very end again, oh, wait, no, we know who the real enemy is. We better get ready for him. And it kind of goes in that style, I felt like, more or less. I think that's an abbreviated kind of version of what the whole plot was for the enemies, at least. Uh, and then you have Kamran, who, once he gets his powers, is the antithesis of Kamala, because she sees all of the good that can happen within everything. He sees all the bad of like, look,
that's a
this is
very
how
good
they
point. I
see
didn't even think of
us.
that.
Yeah. He's like, this is how they see us. This is how they perceive us, whether or not I'm brown
Yeah,
or
they'll
the
never
power.
accept us
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
And then, once things get too far, then he goes, well, what do I don't know what to do now. Like it's that whole thing of, well, you've already gone this far. How do you stop?
Yeah,
And she's like, I can show you. And then, he
definitely a
gets,
teenager would be like, I what do I do?
yeah. And, she figured this out for him, sends him to Pakistan. So now he's with the Red Daggers of all people, which will actually be really interesting if they keep going with that in season 2, I'm sure. But you get a lot from that. And the whole thing with Kamran too is like, well, I guess to break it down really fast, like watching this for me, it was very interesting because my whole fucking life, I've had to go either as Cameron,
Yeah,
if I'm lucky, Kamran, or Kamaran. And like it's always been correcting people throughout my whole life. Some people it took me years to correct them and get them to say my name correctly. And that was like elementary, middle school, like K through 8. And then what happened? I went to high school right when everyone's like, Kamran, and I'm like, cool. New school, fuck. And then they're like, what do we call you? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to call me? And that's kind of how it went. And then I got like 8 nicknames. Depending on what athletic team I was on, I'd get a new
Cam
nickname every time.
or something like
I got what I get. Like I had Dipset because of
that. Okay.
Kill a Cam from Dipset. Uh, so I had Dipset, Kill a Cam, Donuts, Cam, and then that was like all these different high school names. Donuts was my track name. That my coach gave me. I kept asking for donuts, so I just started getting called donuts. He'd be like, "Hey, coach, I'm gonna get the donuts," and then I had the baton in my neck, and I'd be like, "Oh fuck." So all that looking, you go to any place, whether it's a touristy place, Disneyland, whatever the fuck it is, and they have that whole little keychain or cool little like ID card thing for whatever ride, and it has all the names, and you're like, my name will never ever be here,
Yeah, I got lucky. I
ever.
got James, which is a
Yeah, you were
very
very easy.
typical white name.
If I was very lucky, I'd see Cameron maybe, and I'd be like, well, I'm not buying I'm still not my name. I'm not gonna buy it. But it was like that was like the closest it got. And I get it, there's not many Comrons. Of course, you're not gonna fucking manufacture that shit for profit, obviously. I get it. But it's still growing up,
I mean, you can still
it
have like
sucked.
one or two in case
Yeah.
someone shows up.
I guess. But yeah, it sucks at the same time,
Yeah.
I never got to really get that. So I'd get the always like visitor or some bullshit like generic thing. Um, and then eventually, like I met like one or two other Comrons in my life. One actually straight up just went with Cameron because it was easier. Like he didn't even try.
Mm.
Another I think was Comron, and he was cool. And then the very first time I heard my name in media, because there's so many people with similar things like Cameron, 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 everything's Cameron. And then a couple times you hear like Schuster, maybe, which my last name's like, Shoestar, but you hear Schuster sometimes, and then you look in some fucking white blonde guys there, and you're like, okay, never mind, that's not even the same. That's not. We're not even gonna go there. But there's one movie, Olympus. That movie Olympus Has Fallen? It's like Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
There was a sequel called London Has Fallen, and I think the villains in it are Iranian for some fucking reason. And they're like, let's have the Iranians attack London. And I'm just like, of course they would, whatever the fuck. And there's political stuff I could say about that at the same time, but I won't. That's not the right show for that. But at one point, Gerard Butler's character gets on the phone with one of them, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Kamran." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" And then Gerard Butler goes, "Cameron, who the fuck? I don't give a shit who you are." And I'm like,
For real?
"Yeah." And they do that on purpose of like he mispronounces the name and doesn't give a fuck, and that dude probably die. Like Gerard Butler could probably kills him. I immediately stopped the movie and never watched it again. I never finished it. I was like, this movie fucking sucks already. I could already tell what direction they're going in with this bullshit. But sorry, I just wanted to go through all that because it's like a very personal thing for me. Where then we get to Miss Marvel, and I knew there was a character named Kamran that he's like later on in the books, not the ones I've read. It's a different creative team that did it later on. So I never really read it myself. I just knew that there was someone with that name, and I'm like, oh, it's crazy. And then they say it here, and they hear Kamran, and I'm like watching. I got my headphones on, and I'm just like, and I like fucking freak out because it's the very first time in my entire life I heard my name on a show, and it was the freakiest thing for me, and I could not believe it at all. It was
And
too
I don't think
fucking
they get it wrong the whole time either.
every time they get it right, even though Cameron gets Bruno's name wrong, like every time
That,
until like
yeah, that
final
was so
episode. That
funny.
was really good. I was
He's
like,
like,
oh, that's
I've
kind
been
of great.
calling you Brian this whole time. I'm so
He's like, oh
sorry.
shit, sorry, mate. Oh well, I'm British too.
Uh,
Yeah. So it was really cool hearing him, and he's like this cool guy too. So I'm enjoying it even more. And then you get to the end, and I'm praying. I'm like, please, please don't make Kamran the villain. Please, like, don't
yeah.
do this to me. This is the one good thing I got going, guys. I don't want to go back to the Persian weed guy and the fucking Legends of Tomorrow. Please don't do this. Um, so like,
Nah, Kamran's definitely coming back for, if not season 2, like
yeah,
eventually.
but I'm just like, please don't kill him or make him bad. That's all I was like, come on, just like try to keep this guy on the cool side. And they do it and he gets away and shit, and I'm very happy about that. But yeah, it was just like a big deal having a character like that show up. And it was really cool. And I'm really happy too they got the red daggers in, because that is like a thing in the original story. Like she does to go to Pakistan. She does meet Red Dagger. And it's like this cool thing that they show, and you see it here. And I don't think it was usually just him. It's different in this too. In the comics, it's just a local Pakistani hero. He's like Pakistani Batman, more or less. I don't think there were like whole Red Dagger things in like a whole organization in the comic that I recall. So when they do it this time, I'm like, oh, this is different. And they have like a head guy until he gets fucking offed in this. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. and they're there specifically just to kill clandestines. That's even more interesting.
Yeah, that was very specific.
Yeah, I think they said they take care of other things too when it calls for it, but their main focus that they were formed was because of the clandestines and for
I
how
did love
long
they
they've
had
been there.
a whole holographic display, like PowerPoint presentation on who the clandestines are and why they try to stop them from going home.
Yeah, and I did also appreciate that they're the ones that kind of give Kamala the start to her outfit.
Yeah, the scarf. That was cool.
They give her the scarf, but I didn't they also did they also give her the blue? Yeah, he gives her the blue.
Did
That's like
he?
yeah, he gives her the blue, and later on she gets the scarf.
Okay,
I
because I
think that's
remember
how it
her
happened.
mom makes the costume,
Yeah, I think she got the
which is
materials
neat.
and then went from there with it. I'm pretty sure. Um, but
Oh, right. Yeah, I vaguely remember them making a point of like saying that it's like a special fabric or something like that.
yeah. So overall, I think the plot was good, but it just fell short a lot because of how much there was things rushed in it, and it definitely felt very much like we were getting a Cliff Notes almost of Kamala
Yeah.
instead of a full-on novella.
Also, yeah, if they were gonna stick to like 6 episodes, they maybe shouldn't have done like 2 or 3 storylines.
Yeah, it was getting into the BVS territory, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. That's kind of my blueprint of
too many
too many
things,
cooks
not
in the
enough
too many cooks
time.
in the kitchen. Yeah, there's too many cooks.
Yeah,
Uh, and then I guess getting into the nitty gritty here, the length and pacing of the show, which the pacing we kind of talked more or less about here, where I think it was well paced when it got into her kind of dealing with personal things, when it was her goofing off, when it was her with her friends and family.
yeah,
And then the pacing went off when it became the areas in the plot where things got too rushed. So those kind of will go hand in hand, I would say, where anything that was kind of travel or clandestine oriented was not good pacing.
yeah. I
But
was surprised she traveled to Iran really fast and then just like left in the next episode.
yeah, and it was well, yeah, pretty much. Otherwise, the length. So this is probably my biggest complaint is the length of this show. It was a
Yep.
very bad length. I did not like it whatsoever. 6 episodes, like they're like, normally you'd get like 2 hours for a movie, and instead we were like, given six, and that's a lot. I'm like, no, it's not. That's shit. It's crap compared to other shows. This isn't even a movie anyway. If it was a movie, then you could have written it like a movie, but it wasn't. So it feels like it's just. It doesn't feel like it's a movie. Like oh, this is the antithesis to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel came out at the same time, and they both have issues, but they have issues for the opposite reasons. So Miss Marvel was made as a show, but it was made too short of a show when it should have had a lot more episodes and length in it to really flesh out everything going on here, to really make it do well. Whereas Obi-Wan was originally written as a film. They took that same script and then just threw bullshit into it to make it into 6 episodes. So it
Yeah.
went from
When I
something
heard it
that's
was
two
supposed to be a
hours.
movie, I was just like, that would
Yeah.
have been way better as a movie.
And so that was actually too long. And you
Hmm.
could kind of see the differences here where I think I don't know if I complained about it in the Thor episode, but the 6 episode format that Disney Plus does in general is actually a very bad format. It is not a good format whatsoever. It doesn't give you it either gives you too much time for something or too little time.
Yeah.
The other case I would say is too much time was probably the Hawkeye series because that
Yeah.
felt too long. That was just kind of like it felt like I said it before. It was like a 6 hour Christmas special.
Dude, if they had done just like a Christmas movie with Hawkeye, that would have been fucking
Yeah,
fine.
they could have they definitely could have cut it down a lot more. Or if they wanted to really do it's one of those things where you could have made it shorter as a film, or you could have made it longer, put more into it, and not done what you did with it because it was just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas, most other shows that are 6 episodes, Captain America, Winter Soldier, whatever, that felt short. It didn't feel like anything even happened in it. And same thing, I think, even with like Loki. Loki felt too short.
Yeah.
Then again, that's like, oh, well, we'll get season two. And I'm like, bro, you could have probably done season two in this too and just had 12 episodes. And you would have probably had a better turnout for that, I think. Even though it is probably one of the more popular Marvel shows out there currently, I would say. But the ones that got it right are Netflix. with the Marvel shows there. 13
Yeah.
episodes is that sweet spot because we go to, let's say, CW, and you get the CW length for everything. And it's like 26 episodes, all an hour long. And you're like, I want to jump off a cliff because I'm so fucking bored. And half these episodes are filler or they just don't feel interesting. And it's not even like that whole thing where you're kind of missing that Scooby Doo Monster of the Week thing where shows do that. This, like, it still feels like there's an overall plot and they're still focusing on this one thing,
And they
but
just drag it out.
they drag it out for 26 episodes and you're like, stop, please, could we do anything else? Like that's why the first season of The Flash was good. And then later on you're just like, there's 5 seasons of The Flash and I think they should stop. And then they go, there's 8 seasons of The Flash, and you're like, just
Yeah,
won't
like how
die.
long can you keep this going?
Yeah, how do you keep doing this? It's horrible. What, like, don't do this to us, please. But what I'm saying though for Miss Marvel is too short, needed more. If it was 13 or 12 episodes, I think it would have been
Even 8 would have been maybe
marvelous.
better.
Yeah, even 8 would have done more because think about it, 2 more 45-minute episodes to just flesh out the clandestines more, to give them that reason of, to give that plot of, hey, we're not going to do it the peaceful way anymore. We're going to do it the hard way. Well, why are you doing it the hard way? I don't know. Let's figure that out in a whole
Yeah.
episode or 2 episodes instead of just going, I don't want to wait anymore. Let's do it now. And,
Like
getting through that.
maybe if they had had an episode where they show how the clandestines got like banished from their homeworld, because they were very clear that they were banished and they were trying to find a way to like force their way back in no matter what. But like I just never understood why, like what their motivations were other than I'm just homesick and I want to get home.
Yeah. And what's funny is, like, in those cases, you feel like, well, if they're like banished for this long, is there someone waiting for you over there, or you just want to go back to your own
Also that,
place? Like,
yeah.
can't you just make a home here? Like, what's the big fucking deal?
Like why
And
do
with
they
that,
need to get back so bad?
yeah, without that explanation, without that depth, there is no, you don't have that sympathy, you don't have that feeling or care
Yeah.
for that. That's how you get a poorly written villain.
Yeah,
It
they just
becomes
felt
like
kind of
a,
flat at the end.
yeah, that's how you get a bad villain. Like, if you don't have an explanation, like, that's my complaints for Thanos and other characters like that, where you just get kind of bored. Whereas, like I said it before, the first 5 minutes just explaining Gore told me everything I
Yeah.
needed to know about that character and gave all of his motivations and the reasons why he was doing what he was doing. And they couldn't even do that in 6 hours of Miss Marvel, which, like I said, it was too packed. You
I
had too
mean,
much shit going on.
even Thanos got like a minute where he was like, yeah, this is Titan, my homeworld. I told everyone it was gonna, collapse and everyone was gonna die, and I was right. That's
Yeah,
why I'm doing what I'm doing."
we
And
don't actually see anything or know anything else about it,
no,
or the fact that
but
now
at
we know your
least
brother's a white guy, but fuck it.
that's at least more than the clandestines got of just like, I want to get home. Well, why?
Yeah,
Like, because it's home.
cuz
Eh.
yeah, no, and yeah.
Or
So
just
if,
like more specifically, like why were they banished?
yeah,
Because that
and
was another thing they didn't cover.
I think the fact that hopefully they're done with the bullshit 6 issue format that they've been doing is
Yeah.
almost over, because I was complaining about She-Hulk already, and I was not one of those guys who are like, this show sucks and it hasn't even come out yet. I'm saying, like, I'm worried if this is just 6 episodes again,
Yeah.
what's to stop it from doing the same thing these others have been failing to do? And someone then came up to me, someone like online was like, hey, it's 8 episodes. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, then I have more hope for this show because I did not know that. And
Yeah.
I'm
I think
glad that they're doing at least 8 episodes for this. And then was it Daredevil Born Again? They said already
yeah, it's like
18 episodes,
yeah.
and I was floored with that. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Fuck it, I'll take it. I'm assuming now they're probably gonna be 30 minutes or something, but I'll fucking, you know, that's cool with me. But I think honestly, if they can do 8 to 12 in that range for all their future Marvel shows, then I think they're gonna do a good job.
Yeah. I
And
think it's
then
just generally a bad idea to try to force a like a single show time format for every story,
yeah,
because not every story needs the same amount of time to tell itself. Like some stories can be told in 5 episodes, some need 13 or 15. Like,
I think it's also you got to look at the way they do things and how probably insane their business is. Of we have to make sure Disney Plus is occupied 24/7 with
yeah, just
something
such
that
a
is
quick
something that
turnaround
everyone
on
talks about
shows.
every week, and that more or less would get into what I want to talk about next, which is kind of comic to this, like all the differences, which some of it actually has to do with a little bit of the budget, I will say, and the quality of things, because that is a thing that does get into it too.
I'll have to defer to you on this one because, like I mentioned earlier, I haven't taken the opportunity to read this comic yet.
Yeah, no worries. So the big changes here, I guess, with just, I talked about her parents looking a little bit different and whatnot. Kamara doesn't come in until later. Like this kind of takes multiple different creative teams' works and puts them together into these 6 episodes. But Kamala in this, she's apparently a Jinn who may or may not be a mutant. We find out later on.
Yeah, I
And
loved when Bruno said like it's like you got a mutation, and they did the da-da-da-da-da-da. I
yeah,
was like,
and
that's the sound.
we'll get to that. I would say like at the end of this
Uh,
portion, but like so like I said, Jin and potentially a mutant. So and Jin, they make it more Pakistani oriented, even though it's not even really Pakistani oriented
yeah,
anymore
it's
because
weird
it's more
because
of otherworldly shit. Considering
yeah,
you look at the people there and not all of them are Pakistani, and you're like, okay, so it's not even. It's like a weird. It's you make it feel Pakistani, but it's not. It's not even like a this world of shit. You're like a fucking alien or something.
yeah. To me, it just felt like they decided to say like these extra dimensional beings just are close enough to the Jinn that people called them Jinn,
Yeah,
which was weird to me.
yeah, it's kind of weird. So you have that in the comic. Kamala Khan is an Inhuman,
Hmm.
and it's the whole thing of the Terrigen Mist come out, and it affects her, and she gets the powers like that. So it is completely different, and I do get why they wanted to
Even her
change it.
powers are different in this. I mean,
Yeah,
she uses them similarly, but
which I'll get to soon.
okay.
But the whole thing with it was I get why they didn't want to make her an Inhuman with this one for 2 reasons. The first
Because no
being
one
that
likes them.
well, yeah, the first being no one fucking Inhumans fucking suck. The fact that they tried to replace the X-Men with Inhumans in comics and everywhere
Yeah,
else was a fucking joke, to the point where you even see that Inhuman show flop like hell,
it's
or that they
unfortunate.
were like pitching the shit out of it in Marvel's Agents of Shield and stuff. They were like Inhumans,
Yeah,
Inhumans.
but it's
Uh,
really unfortunate because I personally think the Inhumans are a cool thing, but you will never be able to replace the X Men and the mutants with them.
yeah.
You just can't.
And now they're like trying to make the Eternals fucking huge, and I'm just like, I don't also care about them either.
Good
But
luck.
uh, the Inhumans, they aren't really big in the MCU right now. They're not big in comics anymore. In fact, I think they killed off a lot of them in the comics apparently. Um, but with this now, they're like, well, if we're not even utilizing the Inhumans anymore in the movies, we should make Kamala something more oriented, which they then changed to the Jinn because they can make it more culturally oriented, kind of a little bit. Considering then you find out more of where they came from, and you go, never mind, it's not culturally oriented
Yeah.
anymore. But you get the difference there, and with that difference for me, I was fine with it. Honestly, I'm like, cool, that's fine. I don't even like the Inhumans, so that works out for me even more because she was the only Inhuman I actually cared about at this point, and it saves
Also,
them.
at least once they get their powers, the Inhumans and the mutants are like very similar.
Yeah. And then the other being, well, I'll save the X gene for later because that just brings in, it doesn't even bring in the conversation about her being a mutant. It brings in the conversation of the X-Men in general in the MCU, which is why I don't want to talk about it just yet.
Okay.
Uh, but the other thing being her powers are different. So in the comics, Kamala Khan, or I guess in this show, she has like cosmic powers where she has like glowing fucking bigger fists
She
and
seems to
stuff.
literally make hard light constructs.
Yeah, she straight up has like light powers, and then she sort of embiggens herself. Not really. It's like she uses the
Yeah.
hard light to make herself like crystal armor, almost like the light armor, right?
Yeah, that was a little bit weird. I don't I understand that like in the comics she shouts and embiggen and she like makes herself all huge. I feel like they could have maybe saved that for season 2 because she could have just done the thing in this one because it felt weird that
Well,
she
was
already
she?
had like a word for it, but
So when she was in there, did it feel like she looked bigger, or did it feel like the constructs made her bigger? Did she look
I
physically bigger?
It's weird because I want to say to me she did somehow look physically bigger, even though that doesn't make sense. And I think what they were
Doesn't
trying to
look
do
like
was
it
just
in
have
trivia.
her like body get bigger, and like she was kind of piloting like a hard light mech, sort of, but because like her head wasn't covered in hard light, so I don't think she was supposed to physically be bigger. It was just like she was kind of enveloping herself in bigger light thing. But so like it kind of got the embiggen effect. It just looks different.
Yeah.
I
Let's
think
see.
it looked better whenever she just did like a fist or whatever, because like that's the thing that I could see like a high school student or someone that young or that age just like, how do I use my hard light powers? Punch people with big fists.
Yeah, so they at least at the very end do kind of do it a little bit. Like she actually, it does look like it. She actually did grow.
Yeah.
Um, so like I said, she is the light power is very cosmic and everything. The fact that the construct she just fucking runs on and stuff. In the comic, she doesn't have any of this shit. Like her straight up her power is that she can like stretch and make herself bigger and
Yeah,
smaller
she's
and stuff.
almost like Mr. Fantastic.
Similar, but yeah, but she doesn't like go as elastic as she does. But
Yeah.
she just kind of like has this power. She has the strength. Like when she embiggens her hand, she could basically like punch down on you and like
Can
that'll.
she also shrink or
I think she can, if I remember
eh.
correctly. I can't. I haven't read her books in a long time. I do want to reread the original run and kind of read the newer stuff, but uh, yeah, she pretty much like could change shapes and all this stuff, and it was really cool, honestly. Uh, and then we get like this, and their explanation for it felt very much like bullshit. So
Mm,
I was cool with the Inhuman thing. I get that. I get like how that all works and everything else. For this one, I saw two issues that it could have potentially been. Issue number one was if Kevin Feige and them didn't believe in Miss Marvel and they thought this character wasn't good enough to give her own show based on her power set, being like, oh, this girl can like kind of like stretch and do shit, and it's like that's it. Oh, we don't want to do a show at that. What if we give her these cool fucking cosmic powers and stuff, kind of like more closer to Captain Marvel? Oh, yo, that would work better. Yeah, I think people would like that a lot more. So I think that's one potential reason that occurred. The other being that what is one of the biggest complaints I have for anything Marvel on the screen right now?
the visual effects generally or cheapo.
Cheapo, budget, low quality, no time. And this
Add on
one,
top of that that like the stretchy effects for especially like characters like Mr. Fantastic have never looked good on film so
yeah,
far.
so far, all they could do is deconstruct him and then blow his face.
Yeah,
Uh,
he stretched his arm for like 1 second
for one
before it could
second.
look bad.
Yeah. And so with Miss Marvel, I'm imagining them going, how much does it cost to stretch someone and make them still look like it's part of their body?
Yeah, like
Oh, that's a
realistic
lot.
and not creepy.
How much would it cost to throw fake light filters on this character and make her look like she's fucking
Yeah.
pink over her?
I
Oh,
definitely
that
feel like
like
that
a
was a
third of the
lot
cost?
easier to make look good or
Probably
at
a
least
quarter to a
cool.
third of the cost. And I'm like, I'm just guessing. I could be completely wrong. I don't fucking know. I don't know the shit. But that's definitely what that felt like too. And I'm like, oh yeah. And imagine, think about it. You're just putting a character green screened in the air, jumping on little fake little pink things that probably easy as fuck and stuff, compared to hey, we have this character fucking swinging using her arms to like
Yeah.
climb around and shit. And I've been like, yeah, that's probably a lot more expensive. I could see how that's a lot more. And you still, even with 6 episodes, didn't want to do that because obviously it still wasn't even enough with those episodes. Like, come on, guys.
I think
But
like the only time that's ever looked okay is like The Incredibles with Mrs. Incredible. But that's
oh
like a
yeah,
fully animated movie.
yeah. And so with this, I didn't appreciate that. And I didn't like that type of power she had. Is it enough that I didn't like the show? Hell no. I still love the show. Is it enough that I don't like the character? Hell no. I still love the character. I love
For
what
sure.
she's doing and everything else. Does it stop me from watching in the future? No. In fact, I'm now more hyped to watch the Marvels because of this, because I know she's going to be in that movie and she's the reason I want to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Monica Rambeau is kind of, I'm very much indifferent on her. She was okay in WandaVision. Captain Marvel, I could give two shits about. I didn't want to watch the movie because I was like, oh, it's just Captain Marvel. I don't want to watch this again.
I
Uh,
don't know. Like I at least enjoyed watching Captain Marvel like the first time, but I will admit I've struggled to try to put that one on in the background whenever I'm just like trying to do a project, and I'm just like, I'll just want to put something on in the background. I'll watch a Marvel movie or whatever, and for some reason it's never Captain Marvel.
Well, the
I
whole
put
thing
it
for
on
me,
once, and I got like 5 minutes in it, and I was like, I'm not feeling it.
if you go back to the episode we talked about it, I was probably more positive about it because I was like, yeah, she's just like us. She tells jokes that no one laughs at. And I'm like, straight up, her fucking jokes weren't funny at all. And the whole thing, that's what made her feel, I guess, real for a second there. Cause I'm like, oh dude, it's like she probably would laugh at her own jokes. I'm like, that's the most human shit ever. And then
Yeah,
like, and I'm like, well, it's just Ben Mendelsohn making me laugh because he doesn't understand anything. Cause he's like, why would you kick someone's foot up your ass? I don't understand
yeah.
this. Uh, but then like, yeah, and then I go back and think about it more, and then I watch her in like the future stuff, and I'm just like, fuck, it's so milk toast. I hate it. Like it's just boring, and it's not an interesting character. I don't think I don't know how her stuff is in the comics.
I don't
Like,
know. I did find it funny though for like the last minute of this show when for some reason like Ms.
oh yeah, she
Marvel and
looks
Captain
around
Marvel
and she's
swap.
like,
Yeah, and she's like looking around this room of like an obvious fan person. She's just like, what the fuck?
yeah. And the weird thing too is I don't get the crazy hate people do have for it at the same time. Like I'm just like, this
Yeah.
character just is boring to me. But there's some people that are like, I fucking hate Brie Larson, and
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm
Because
like,
for
did I
me, I'm
miss
just like,
something? Is there something that happened that I did not know that occurred? Because I'm
uh,
just like, before
depend on
this, huh?
it depends on who you ask. A lot of people are like, they're just being misogynist, and
Okay,
you'll
because
you'll
I'm like,
never convince those people that a female hero is good. But
I've seen her in like two
that
other
can't be true for
things.
everyone.
She's been in like two other things for me. One, Kong Skull Island. She was the photographer, which was
Hmm.
fine. Just, a lot of it, all the characters in that show or in that movie were just kind of like
She was also in Scott
boring.
Pilgrim.
Exactly. She was a fucking Scott Pilgrim. That shit was great. And she sings really good. And I enjoyed that
Yeah.
a lot. And I honestly, I do think she sung, I feel like she has an album or something. I actually want to look that up because I like her singing a lot. But yeah, I mean, I hope she could be better in the Marvels. Like, I'm not unwilling to be like,
Nah.
I'm gonna come in hating it. Like, I like it to be good. If she's good in it, she's good in it. That's cool.
No, I like
Um,
her. It's just my problem is Captain Marvel, the character is just so
she is also
powerful
super OP. Yeah.
that it's like, what can you possibly challenge her with?
Yeah.
But we'll see, I guess.
Well, like it's the difference between her and Superman. Superman's like fucking awesome, and he's more powerful than she is easily. But he has more weaknesses than she does, like magic and kryptonite, and that's like
Yeah.
just very obviously there. Um, but yeah, yeah. So Miss Marvel, her powers, like I said about that, those were like the big things. Was her origins were changed of how she gets her powers, the powers she has are changed, and then
Hmm.
like the whole clandestine stuff isn't really in there. I don't even think they're in the comics at all. I have to
Yeah, I
look
tried
in.
looking it up and I don't think I could find anything.
Yeah, no, that was created because the enemies she has in the beginning are much different, and she also is like part of the whole Civil War thing, or like when they do Civil War 2, where
Hmm.
Captain Marvel also fucking murders Iron Man, and you're just like,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, I like this character in any form.
She
uh,
felt bad about it.
he was already dead. It doesn't
Nah.
matter. It's fucking he's dead. He's dead. Uh, but what was it? Like there's some fucked up shit Captain Marvel does where Miss Marvel goes against her, and she's like, "You're literally trying to arrest people I know for something they didn't do yet, and like all you're doing is going to potentially make them do it now, if anything, and all this shit."
Interesting.
And that's one of the main arcs in the original run, which is really cool. But and there was the whole thing too is the reason I didn't like I said, I really like the show, but the reason I have so many complaints about it too is it doesn't give her a chance to be Miss Marvel. Like you don't get her as Miss Marvel till the end, which is I feel like we were robbed
Yeah.
of that
Like at
because
least we got her costume and her like running through the streets and stuff in the last episode. But
they have to
yeah.
do more episodes for the second season because there's so much more I want to see. I don't want to be fucking here's overall plot that you have to deal with entire season. Like, I don't give a fuck about that.
Hmm.
I want the one
That
shot episodes where there's a funny kerfuffle with her and like some fucking robber in Jersey. I want the fucking Warcraft villain she has to deal with in the game
okay.
and then out of the game. There's like
I
random shit that she deals with in the comics that are straight up great Monster of the Week episodes. And I want Monster of the Week episodes with this character because that is what she is meant for.
I know that this is more of a recent, like, sort of villain for Spider-Man, but it would fit for this kind of Ms. Marvel. Having her like mess around with Screwball for an
I
episode
knew
would
you
be
were gonna say that. I
hilarious.
knew you were gonna say Screwball. I fucking knew it. That would be funny though if it was Screwball.
Yeah.
But
Screwball is like basically they Marvel's attempt at like a modern villain of like what would someone of today's generation do for like villain stuff that's not too insane, like just murdering people. And
yeah,
basically Screwball just makes these weird ass like Riddler-esque challenges
oh, I
and
remember.
forces,
Yeah, it's yeah. You
yeah,
have
and
to
just
do it in all the
forces
fucking
Spider-Man to do
games.
this shit, and she does it for like the Twitch views, and that's it.
Dude, so you know what's funny in that game? I did all that for the platinum, and then when she was back for all the DLCs, I was like, I'm not doing this again. I
Nah.
was like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this again. Like, it's not worth it.
Dude, I live in even Spider-Man's like I don't have time for this. I don't want to do this right
Dude,
now.
even the fucking players, like, I don't have time for this. Like, I don't
Uh,
want to. I straight up did not want to do her shit. I was like, fuck, I hate this. I hate challenge. I hate like trial
I'm
challenge
fine with it
things.
as long as it doesn't go on for too long.
I just don't like that they make it required if you want like completion of stuff.
That's
That's
fair.
what always
Yeah.
kills me. That's what killed me for the Arkham games too. I
Dude,
never
that made
cared
me
about
so
fucking
mad for Arkham
challengers.
Knight, where it's like, wait, so to get the actual end of the game, I have to do this shit.
You have to do all the Riddler shit, and by the end of it, I did it, and I'm like, this fucking sucked. And then you get this stupid like, it's a bat ending, and I'm like, yeah, you can tell Paul Dini left before this game
Eh,
because he wrote the first two, and then he left before three, and I was like, yeah, Paul Dini wasn't here. There was no, I don't know what the fuck happened here for Rocksteady. It was like Rocksteady, what happened? They're like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. We saw
nah.
Rocksteady bleed with the Riddler shit. Oh man, but yeah. So the other thing for Miss Marvel was the style, and when I say the style, I mean like they did all this cool like drawn comic booky
I
stuff and like
actually,
the different fonts and all
yeah,
this
I
shit.
either texted you about this or we talked about it on the way to a
That
movie.
was
That
one of the
like,
first things you said. Yeah.
yeah, I really liked the visual style of just like whenever she's
Yes.
texting someone, like it doesn't even pop up as like a on-screen overlay. It's like it'll show up in the background somewhere, and it's like so creative and like looked so cool.
All of it was really awesome. I liked it a lot. I liked that they did this, and it felt very much in character of her because of how cartoony her character is normally. And they did this, and it's as close as you can get to something without making it feel too cringe cartoony. Like I said earlier,
Yeah,
like they really pulled that off, and I really appreciated that style, and I really hope they maintain that style in the future for her as well. Even I would love it if it's there's some fucking dumb team up movie, whatever the Avengers House of
dude,
King,
I would
whatever the
love
fuck.
her and Peter to go like street level crime fighting.
Yeah. If Peter's finally, yeah, if they finally make Peter Spider-Man and after in the
Yeah,
fourth movie, after it takes I don't know how many years for that to happen. Or five movies, because he was in two Avengers movies. So it takes five fucking movies to get Spider-Man. So stupid. Then her and Peter can do shit. Like, yeah, or you could get Peter and Loki eating hot dogs, and Loki's like saying something random, and he's like, listen, Loki, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. So you could go back to Jersey where you came from. That's a conversation that happens. They have
it'd
hot
be so
dogs
funny if
together.
it's like, hey Loki, what are you doing in the city? It's like, oh, I'm just dropping off alligator Loki in the sewers.
Oh, that'd be pretty funny. Just some dude falls in the sewer and alligator Loki just bites his
uh,
hand off. I really like that the gators bite people's hands off. That was great.
yeah,
Uh yeah, so Miss Marvel, there's so much potential for her. There's so much
absolutely.
shit you can do with her. And they gave that whole like, here's majority of phase 6 and shit. And there's the two Avengers movies that I know everyone was hyped about, and I just kind of was looking at it like,
I'm surprised
yeah, it's just
they announced
happening.
two of them,
Yeah, I mean it was straight up as much as I expected. That's
and
the
it's
thing.
like
I don't.
so different too. It's like the dynasty of Kang, or the Kang dynasty, and the Secret Wars. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it wasn't that big of a deal to me just because of it would have been a bigger deal if it wasn't for the fact that there was like 20 different fucking shows and movies coming, and you're just like, yeah, here's two more, and I'm like, yep, all
Yeah.
right, sounds like something I'll be watching this year or that year with like 8 other things nonstop. Where once again I don't really have a break, but okay, thank you for the Marvel show. But we talked about that already. Like the whole like there's just too much Marvel to the point. Well, actually, no, we didn't. We talked about that not on the show, where I like I said, individual projects can be great for Marvel stuff, but the amount of shit coming out is so much, like I said before, where you don't have time to critique anything anymore because the next thing comes out and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing,
Yeah.
and they want you to not even think about it to the point where like I said, I can't remember Moon Knight because there's like 8 things already since then. I don't fucking remember anymore.
I was hyped like for that show, and I
Yeah.
I liked it when I watched it, and then just I think part of the problem is Obi-Wan was out at the same time, and I would just like got
Obi-Wan
so
was the same
more
time
wrapped in
as
that, I guess.
Miss Marvel, I think. They came out at the same
Oh,
time.
is that what? Oh my
Yeah,
god, there's too many things.
exactly. That's the point of Marvel has become what Syndrome said in The Incredibles. If you guys remember the villain from Incredibles, once
Yeah.
everyone is super, no one will be. And that is what has happened because now I won't say it here, but I watched the movie Bullet Train and it felt so fucking refreshing because I'm like, I'm so marveled out and I'm like, this feels so like such a fresh movie because it's just people fucking killing each other on a train. And I'm like, this feels 20 times better than anything Marvel I've watched in like
Dude, we
for
both
5
watched
years.
like Prey within the last week, and we both were like, "Yo, that's just a good movie."
Yeah, I'm just like I'm straight up like looking forward more now to a movie because it's not a comic book movie now. That's the most fucked up thing I've ever said. And as someone who always wants more comic book movies or used to and now does not want that
I think it's
because you better be careful what you wish for now, I
yeah.
guess.
I think it's probably just because like it doesn't a single movie does not feel like such a massive time investment. But for Marvel now, it's just like, okay, I gotta add this to my list. I gotta watch this. I gotta watch the next
There's
thing.
like 5 I Am
Because
Groot specials now that I don't actually want to watch. Like I'm like I'll watch them, but I'm not gonna watch them right now. I'm
I
like they're
mean,
at the bottom of my. Usually, I'm like I'll get the Marvel thing done this week and stuff, but I'm like slowing down as piece by piece it happens. I'm like
yeah.
I didn't watch Thor in the first like week or so. It took like 3 weeks or something for me to watch Thor, and then like I'm Groot. I'm like I'll probably get to this in a month maybe because I'm like so behind on shows
Yeah.
right now, and there's like 8 other shows I would rather watch at this point, and I don't even think any of them are really besides Harley Quinn or even comic book oriented.
I've been watching that. It's been funny.
I'm excited for it. I haven't even started it yet.
And
But
Westworld.
yeah,
God, Westworld's been insane.
yeah. So Miss Marvel. Like I said, all about it. Love it. Have a lot of complaints still, but it's not with the character. It's not with the world itself. It's just with the length, the pacing, and a little bit of the cheapness in the budget for it. And then the fact that it just is part of an overall thing that is just becoming fatiguing to a high extent. Uh, that's it. Otherwise, the heart in it is there, and I can feel it,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate it, and I do want more of it. I won't lie. I
Yeah.
will want a lot more of Miss Marvel. I want her to be in as much shit as possible, because some of these characters I feel like aren't going to get their due because there's just so many things with so many different characters. A lot of them are just going to get the short end of the stick. I feel like, but I'm looking
You don't
forward to
think
reading
they'll ever do
Marvels.
a Squirrel Girl live action show?
Probably,
God,
honestly,
probably.
yeah,
If
no, they
they,
will.
because like
And that's going
that's
to start a whole
another.
thing. Like right now, they're like, we give She-Hulk to people because they'll go mommy and they'll love
Uh,
that shit. And if we give fucking Squirrel Girl to people, all the dudes that dress up as fucking animals will be like, ah, yeah, it's a squirrel chick, oh
well,
boy. And
also Squirrel
that'll
Girl
cause the other thing.
from what I understand, Squirrel Girl often like pals around with
Craven.
Miss Marvel. Wait, what?
I don't know. I think there was a Squirrel Girl run with her. It's like her and Craven or something.
That would be really
I have no
interesting.
idea. I didn't read it. I just saw like a
Uh,
thing and I was like, is that Craven with Squirrel Girl? And I was just like, I'm gonna keep moving. It's that
yeah,
thing where you look, you're in the subway and you see like a crazy guy and you go, ah, that's weird. And then you just keep walking.
not my problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're Peter Parker, like hot dog and
Uh,
raindrops falling on my head.
yeah,
Spider-Man 2, great time.
I gotta hope that this short rushed season was Disney's attempt at like a quick introduction to the character and her powers because
Yeah.
like we said, she by the end of the season she at least has her suit. She's got a hold of her powers. She has an idea of what she wants to do with them, and that has the support of her family even. So I hope that next season they don't have to do like a quick 6 episode get it out the door season. They can actually like do like 8-10 episodes and like focus on a single plot like story, or like you said, have like a few episodes where she's literally just dealing with street level crimes and helping people out.
And here's the thing now, getting into the final thing that I wanted to save for, because it's kind of a big thing. And we're for sure not talking about Nope this time. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, it's
That'll be
taking
next
a
episode.
little while.
Uh, not only would she be in the Eternals and whatever random Marvel projects they want to put her in, but now she can be part of something that is the biggest part of the Marvel franchise that I care about more than really anything else in the Marvel franchise. Because the Avengers have never
Thunderbolts?
the fuck no. The Avengers have never meant anything to me. All the main Avenger heroes mean nothing to me. They're I could give two shits about them before these movies. Even in these movies, I'm like, that's cool. Oh wait, they're dead. I don't care anymore now. They killed off like half of them. Whatever. And they also recast Edward Norton as Mark Ruffalo, and he's a joke now. But the X-Men, the mutants. So here is where things get fucking interesting, because at the end, you have Bruno saying, yeah, your genes aren't just Jin and Pakistani.
Yeah, there's
it's
something
like,
different there that
yeah,
it's not even in the rest of your family either.
Yeah, and you get the little fucking 90s X-Men music clip for a second there. And here's the thing, it doesn't guarantee you that she's a mutant, but it's that thing where you're just kind of like, are they hinting the X-Men, or are they just going to be like, you're an Inhuman?
I don't think they would have done that music sting if it was not explicitly going to be a mutants thing.
There is always that stupid chance, because there's always, someone's going to fuck something up. There's always a chance someone will fuck something up, and they just go, nah, she's still an Inhuman. And you'd be like,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's a low I'm saying like that is a 5 to 10% chance. That like it's not a big thing. I'm saying it's a very low potential.
Like Black Bolt literally showed up in Doctor Strange 2. Like,
yeah,
that tells me that Disney and Marvel are not completely done with those characters.
I mean, one would say his appearance was a blowout. But
I see what you did there.
Yes. Really fast. My favorite, how everyone always does like he can take you out just by opening his mouth, and she goes, what mouth? And then, he does the thing. My favorite thing is it shows Mr. Fantastic with Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, and it's like, here's the thing though. Spider-Man's girlfriend's dead. And she goes, what dead girlfriend? And it shows Gwen Stacy alive, and Spider-Man and Mr. Fantastic are like, yeah. It's so
That's hilarious.
Stupid. It's so stupid. But the whole thing with the mutant gene is, it's the one thing we've been waiting for. The only potentially good thing about that merger, the whole thing with like Fox and Disney merging and them finally getting like the X-Men, is like, we're waiting for them and we still don't know when they're coming. We got a quick little, hey, look, it's Professor Xavier in the fucking yellow chair in Doctor Strange. And then you go, cool, is he here? And his fucking neck gets broken from the inside. And you go, never mind.
I think she just broke his brain, like his psyche.
That's what it was. Yeah.
She like killed his mental image of himself. Like, kind of like you die in the dream, you die for real.
Yes.
But
yeah, she Inception.
They did also at some point mention that they're going to continue the X-Men 97 cartoon.
Yes.
But I don't know how that's going to.
That's fall 2023, I think. Like, so it's like not even a year away. It's like a year and a half away or something.
If somehow like Marvel can make the what if episodes an actually important thing that ties into the rest of the MCU, they're going to do that for X-Men 97 somehow. And I don't know if I like that or not.
Well, you think X-Men 97 will get into the MCU and that's how they're going to do it?
I don't want to say I'm worried about it, because it would be cool, but it's I think
they're just continuing that cartoon. It's like, I would look at it as, remember when they were like, hey, we're bringing back the Clone Wars for a final season?
Yeah.
I see it. This is what they're doing with the X-Men
show.
No,
I think that is kind of what they're going to do, but they're also maybe somewhere going to insinuate that like this has always been a thing. They've always been around in the MCU. And
that kind of thing.
It's going to be weird.
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to fucking do it. It could be they could do a straight up like Xavier had everyone was like shielded. It was or forgotten or something.
Or just he literally just made everyone forget about mutants whenever they popped up. Yes. That is not impossible, actually.
Honestly, that I'm fine with. I'm totally that would be really cool.
Because he could literally do that with Cerebro. He just usually is more moralistic about it and is like, no, I can't be like messing with literally everyone.
I mean, there's a whole thing of Giancarlo Esposito talking with Marvel apparently right now, and he
Yeah,
could potentially be Xavier. And I was
that would be
like,
an interesting take for sure.
I'll take that. Shut up and take my money for that. Giancarlo Esposito is fucking Xavier. That would be insane. But um, with Miss Marvel being an X-Men, apparently, I think she was originally going to be an X-Men in the comics. The reason they changed it was because at that point when they were thinking of that, Marvel was attempting to kill the X-Men because they were trying to basically sabotage Fox, more or less.
Yeah,
They were trying to sabotage those movies, and they pretty much were like, hey, start making the X-Men evil, start killing them off, doing all this shit. So because of that, and they were trying to make Inhumans big, Miss Marvel, when she was being created very individually, like she wasn't just like, you could tell she was a very standout character. She wasn't made to be like just part of the Inhuman thing. She was made to be her thing, and they were going like she's going to be a
yeah.
mutant. And then
It was
Brass
like
came down and
it was
said
almost like she just happened to be an Inhuman, and that
she
was it.
was. It was more. It was that thing of kind of she was created at the wrong place at the wrong time
Mm,
type of thing where she almost got the X-Men treatment, and then they went, no, you get you get the gas spray people, and you go, oh fuck. Uh, and now though they're like, we can change that though. We can correct that, and we can make her part of the most popular group within Marvel, pretty much, or at least pre-movies, which was the X-Men. And imagining her as an X-Men in two ways. Like one, she would still have all her solo shit, kind of like Wolverine has all the time. But two, especially because like in the comics, she forms her own young people team called the Champions. And on that team, it's like Miles
mm.
Morales, Amadeus Cho Hulk, Viv Vision, um, Nova, the young Nova version of him, and then the time displaced young Cyclops was in that team as well. And Cyclops and Miss Marvel became like really good friends. And then like later on, he, they return to their time, and she runs into adult Cyclops, and she's like, "Hey, this is really weird." And he's like, "Yeah, I know, right? We used to be on the same team." And she's like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, you didn't know? I remember everything. I know all the stuff we did together." And it was like a really heartfelt thing. But like, because of that, as a comic book fan now, I'm like, dude, if I can get like the first MCU X-Men team and have like, oh, it's Cyclops, Jean Grey, Miss Marvel, like them and like whoever else, just give me those three, honestly, first.
That'd be
And then
cool.
throw in the others. I will be incredibly happy just to also see potentially the Emmet, like have Miss Marvel have a potential X on her outfit would be so fucking
That
cool.
would be cool,
That would be so
dude.
fucking cool.
Can you just like, I know this is probably looking way into the future, but can you imagine an actually good Phoenix, a Dark Phoenix movie or saga? Like they could literally do an entire
They could.
like phase saga for
I mean,
the
that could be,
Phoenix
yeah, that could be
Wars.
a whole thing, like post King shit, yeah, easily. Or they could do Galactus or Doctor Doom. Like Doctor Doom could be like in that,
Yeah,
or I guess he'll be the secret. I don't care enough. That's too much. I just want X-Men. Yeah. So there's all that shit. Because at this point, I'll tell you guys right now. I knew I said Miss Marvel's my favorite Disney Plus show. Easily now, Miss Marvel is my favorite MCU character. I'm just gonna
really.
say it right now. Yes, she is the one I'm investing everything into now. Just like all my interest, it's like her, and then like I guess Winter Soldier has been. He honestly was my favorite for the most amount of time, and then I'd say now he's just number two under her. But she's number one because a lot of my characters that I like from comics aren't even in there yet.
That's
Uh,
fair.
and
Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting. I'm like waiting, watching Jon Snow or Black Knight, being like, when are you gonna be Black Knight? I'm waiting, and then Blade's coming. I'm like, those are the two characters. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, because Moon Knight was supposed to be up there. I was like ready to be like, you're going on the pedestal with the higher ups, and he just came out, and I'm like, I'll have my people call you all people. Never mind, you're not coming up here at the top. So yeah,
Yeah. I
Miss
guess I'm just
Marvel's.
really lucky that one of my favorite characters is Spider-Man, and I keep getting Spider-Man movies. And I'm like, ooh boy.
Well, that's like saying you're never gonna get a Batman movie. You're always gonna get.
eh,
Those are the two things that'll be always ever visible because they're also the two most oversaturated lines in current comic book anything right
that's
now.
fair. Yeah.
So they'll never stop doing it. They'll shove it down your throat whether you want it or not. In my case, at least for Batman, I'll take it when it's on the big screen. So that's just me. But yeah, I think that is all the Miss Marvel shit. And I know I ranted a few times there, especially about my own fucking name. And then like we would go off there a little bit off the rails, but I figured that's what would happen. Because I knew there was a lot I wanted to say about the show, and there's a lot you could say about the show. And I really hope that they learn from what they did and they can make an even better second season of the show
Yeah.
and make more with this character. Because this character is, I kid you not, I've said it before. This is the modern day Spider-Man of Marvel. Easily. She is the one that has all the Peter Parker problems, but isn't Peter Parker. And also she's a brown girl.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man doesn't do that anymore. You don't get that feeling anymore. Like you want him to just kind of evolve finally and grow up and not have to fucking erase shit anymore. And it's just like, yeah, do what Superman did and get married and have a kid or some shit. That'd be nice. At least you got some progress there.
I'll agree with you there. Like, as much as I love Spider-Man, it is a little bit frustrating that every time he has like some growth, like, oh my God, I'm not a poor like student anymore, or like I don't have to worry about money anymore. He, for some reason, either gives it up or it's taken away from him, and he's back to being like a struggling dude in New York. And it's like that formula is funny, and it's worked for him for a long time. But like, yeah, you can
It just shows
take it easy on Peter from time to time.
It shows that a character in that type of situation will never win. It shows that he'll never achieve anything, which is the sad part. That's actually kind of a fucked up way of utilizing Spider-Man.
Dude, if you want to talk about depressing Spider-Man comics, like Spider-Man Reign is like so fucking sad.
No, I bet. But yeah, so like she really is doing everything modern day, and because she's a young high school kid, it actually works because there's so much ahead of her that you can do all this stuff with it. You can have her balance everything, and there's only like really just nowhere but up to go with that. And I'm excited to see more of it in comics and on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Miss Marvel. So
yeah, don't fuck it up, Disney.
Yeah, don't fuck it up more than you already did. Next week we will have well, I guess we'll just first off, if you're already subscribing, please give us a 5-star review if you're on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening on Spotify, please rate us. If it's YouTube, please like and subscribe. But otherwise, subscribe on whatever you're listening on. That would really help us out. If you have any questions or comments for the show, like feedback, anything, or if you want us to answer a question on the show, you can send an email at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Once again, it's Sutro Sidetalk. Literally the title of the show, just put it together, no spaces, @gmail.com. Boom, all done. You can, of course, also follow the show on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter @Sutro Sidetalk. And you can follow James on Instagram or on Twitter @InvaderJim124 and me on Twitter @GoGoComzilla. You'll find all of that in the show notes on any version you listen to or watch. It's all there, all the links and everything else, all the tags and whatnot. Also, I guess, yeah, so everything coming up. We will next week record and talk about Nope. It will definitely not be as long as this, so we'll talk about some other shit too. I'll probably talk about Bullet Train, and maybe I'll finally talk about rewatching the Pirates of the Caribbean movies because I've been itching to talk about that. And then the week after we'll probably do
all of them or just the good ones.
Well, I rewatched the first 3, and for the first time I watched 4 and 5. I'd never seen them before. Okay. I never watched them, until now.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. The week after that, we'll finally, I think, do our next Disney bundle, which will be what was it? Turning Red, Lightyear, Encanto, and maybe Rescue Rangers.
And then I got a couple weeks to watch Encanto.
Yeah, and then maybe Rescue Rangers. Finally watch that and see what the fuck that is. Because James, you could watch your sad Sonic in that or something.
I love that for some reason they shoehorn ugly Sonic in there.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So we'll talk about those 4 things the following week. So that's coming up. After that, we'll see what happens. If there's something new that comes out, also we can talk about. Otherwise, there's plenty of backlog stuff I can finally pop out there. Actually, there's other shows like maybe we'll talk about Sandman. Maybe we'll talk about Resident Evil. Not Harley Quinn. I was going to say Harley Quinn. But otherwise, hopefully we're recording it this Monday and we'll come out with it this week. But we'll have our next Sutro Side Watch episode on the Timothy Dalton James Bond movie License to Kill. And then we'll finally, hopefully, get into our Ennio Morricone, or not not Ennio Morricone, uh that's the composer, but basically Sergio Leone and Akira Kurosawa films we were going to do, which was Yojimbo and
Hmm.
Fistful of Dollars. And then for Cut of Steel, it will be coming back sooner than I wanted it, that I planned it for,
Then you
because
wanted.
that I wanted it. Once Harley Quinn season 3 wraps up, we will do an episode that will cover all 3 seasons plus the tie-in comic. That was like the Eat, Pray, Kill tour, I think it was called.
Uh,
So we'll do those 4 things together in an episode.
was it Eat Kill Bang?
Eat, Bang, yeah, Eat, Kill, Bang. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and then we'll also do eventually I'm working on it, but right now, so my current focus right now is I'm still going through all the past YouTube episodes and getting 30-second, 1 minute, maybe in a minute and a half clips for TikTok. Still putting those out. I'm a little bit behind on it, and I'm trying to get it done. Once it's all done, I'm focusing, like the big next focus is straight up that Could Have Steal Whatever Happened to the DCU, which will be 1 to 3 episodes, and we're going to cover every single movie announced since Man of Steel, because even if it's one that came out, there might be an alternate story of what it was originally going to be before they changed it. So we're going to cover everything that came out, everything that was canceled, everything that's still coming, but it's going to be that's why it's going to be a very heavy one. That's going to take a lot of research to go through everything and find everything out. And it's going to be really fucking fun to talk about, just kind of a trudge to research, which is why it's going to take so much time. And like I said, I'm still trying to figure out ways to better get us known on podcast platforms, on YouTube. Still working on that. It's, everything takes a long time, but working on it. Other than that, I think that is everything coming and all the shit going down. Yeah, but until next time, guys, catch you later.
Thanks for listening.